The long night Kim Do-yeon pressed his body flat against the cold tunnel wall. His breathing was slow and quiet. Above him, through 50 meters of rock and dirt, he could hear the machines. The Vorath patrol drones hummed as they passed over the ground. They were hunting. They were always hunting. 500,000 years. That was how long the Vorath had owned Earth. Do-hyun did not really understand such a number. Nobody could. But he knew what it meant. It meant that humans lived like rats. They hid in tunnels. They ate fungus and recycled water. They died young and they died afraid. Do-hyun was 34 years old. That made him old by tunnel standards. His job was simple. He walked ahead of everyone else. He found safe paths. He found danger before danger found his people. Today, he had found something else. The wall in front of him was different. It was not natural rock. It was metal. Old metal, covered in rust and dirt, but metal all the same. Do-hyun touched it with his fingers. His heart beat faster. Metal walls meant human construction. Human construction from the before time. He pulled out his radio. The signal was weak this deep, but it would reach Colony 7. Yuna, he whispered. I found something. Park Yuna arrived 2 hours later with a team of 6. She was the chief engineer of Colony 7, a woman of 40 with gray in her hair and fire in her eyes. She had lost her husband and 2 children to a Vara sweep 3 years ago. Since then, she worked. She built. She improved. She never stopped. She looked at the metal wall and said nothing for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a rare thing, that smile. Get the cutters, she said. They worked through the night. The wall was thick, but Yuna's tools were good. When they finally broke through, stale air rushed out. Air that had been sealed away for longer than anyone could imagine. Beyond the wall was a room. Beyond the room was a hallway. Beyond the hallway was a world that Do-hyun had never dreamed existed. They found weapons. Real weapons, not the simple knives and clubs that humans use now. These were guns that still worked after 500,000 years. They found vehicles, strange machines with wheels and wings. They found food that had turned to dust and water that had turned to stone. But the most important thing they found was the computer. It sat in the center of a large room, covered in dust but still humming with power. Yuna approached it like a person approaching a sleeping god. Her hand shook as she touched the controls. It still works, she breathed. The power source. It must be nuclear, or something beyond nuclear. Something that lasts. The screens came to life. Data scrolled across them. Numbers and words and images that none of them could understand at first. But Yuna was smart. She was very smart. She began to read. Elderly Taesung arrived the next day. He was the oldest person in Colony 7, perhaps the oldest person in all the underground colonies. He was 73 years old, which was almost impossible. His body was weak, but his mind was sharp. He remembered things. He kept the old stories alive. The before time, he said, looking around the bunker. I told everyone. I told them we were once great. They called me a fool. You were right, Do-hyun said. Taesung walked slowly through the rooms. He touched the weapons, the vehicles, the walls. Tears ran down his wrinkled face. We had cities, he said. We had ships that flew between stars. We had billions of people, not millions. We fought the Vorath when they came. We lost, but we fought. Yuna called them back to the computer room. She had been working without sleep, reading the ancient data. Her eyes were red and her hands were shaking, but her voice was strong. I found something, she said. The people who built this place, they studied the Vorath for years before the end. They watched them. They learned about them. And they found a weakness. Everyone went quiet. A weakness. The Vorath had no weaknesses. Everyone knew that. The Vorath were perfect killers, perfect conquerors. They had crushed humanity like insects. Their biology, Una continued. The Vorath need a specific type of radiation to survive. It comes from their home star. They carry devices that produce this radiation wherever they go. Without it, they get sick. Without it, they die. Dahyun felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Small and fragile, but real. Can we use this? He asked. Maybe, Una said. The data is incomplete. We need more. We need to find other bunkers, other records. But this is a start. This is a real start. They spent 3 more days in the bunker. They took what they could carry. Weapons, tools, data storage devices. They mapped the location carefully so they could return. On the 4th day, everything changed. Do-hyun was on watch near the colony entrance when his sensors went crazy. Movement above. Lots of movement. He ran back to the council chamber where the leaders were meeting. Vorath patrol, he reported. They found our outer tunnels. A big group. Maybe 50 drones and a command unit. The room went cold with fear. A command unit meant a living Vorath, not just machines. Living Vorath only came when they planned to kill everything. How long? Asked the council leader. 3 days, Do-hyun said. Maybe 4. They will map the tunnels first. Then they will send in the kill squads. Una stood up. Her face was pale but determined. Then we have 3 days to evacuate, she said. 3 days to save everyone and everything we found. 3 days to start a war that should have been fought 500,000 years ago. Nobody spoke. Nobody argued. They all knew she was right. They had lived in the darkness for too long. They had hidden and crawled and begged for survival. Now they had knowledge. Now they had weapons. Now they had hope. Taesung raised his old, thin voice. There are stories, he said. Old stories about other places. Other colonies. A great refuge under the ocean, built by our ancestors to survive the end. If we can find it, then we find it, Do-hyun said. Pack everything. Tell everyone. We leave tomorrow. That night, for the first time in 500,000 years, humans began to fight back. Not with violence, not yet, but with something more powerful. With purpose. With the belief that they could win. Above them, the Vorath machines continued their patrol. They did not know that the prey they had hunted for so long was about to become the hunter. The long night was ending. Dawn was coming. The awakening 2,000 people moved through the darkness. Old men and women, young children, mothers carrying babies, fathers carrying supplies. Everyone carried something. Everyone moved forward. Nobody looked back. Behind them, Colony 7 was burning. Do-hyun walked at the front of the line. His eyes scanned every shadow, every tunnel branch, every crack in the rock. Beside him walked a young woman named Choi Mai-rae. She was 26 years old, thin and quiet, with strange pale eyes that seemed to see things others could not. Stop, Mai-rae said suddenly. Do-hyun raised his hand. The line behind him stopped. 2,000 people held their breath. What is it? Do-hyun whispered. Patrol, above us. Moving east. Mai-rae pointed to the ceiling. They will pass in 2 minutes. Do-hyun had learned to trust Mai-rae. He did not understand her ability, but he had seen it save lives many times. She could sense the Vorath somehow. She could feel their machines moving through the earth like ripples in water. They waited. The ground above them vibrated slightly. Then nothing. Clear, Mai-rae said. They moved forward again. Bae Sun-ho walked in the middle of the group. He was a big man, 40 years old, with scars on his face and hands. He had been a colony enforcer once, keeping order in the tunnels. Now he was something else. A protector. A guardian. He carried the biggest weapon they had taken from the bunker. A heavy rifle that could punch through Vorath armor. Beside him walked a small boy named Han Ji-woo. The boy was only 12 years old, but his mind was different from other children. He understood machines. He could make old technology work with just a touch. The elders called him blessed. Sunho called him trouble. I need to rest, Ji-woo said. We all need to rest, Sunho replied. We rest when we are safe. When will we be safe? Sunho did not answer. He did not know. On the second day, they met other humans. The tunnel opened into a large cave. Inside the cave were about 50 people, dirty and thin, with weapons pointed at the newcomers. Their leader was a woman with one arm, lost to a Vorath blade years ago. Who are you? She demanded. Yuna stepped forward. Survivors from Colony 7. We are going to the Deep Refuge. Come with us. The Deep Refuge is a myth. 3 days ago, we found a bunker from the before time, full of weapons and data. The myth is real. The one-armed woman looked at the crowd behind Yuna. 2,000 people. More humans than she had ever seen in one place. Show me, she said. Yun, they showed her one of the data devices. The woman watched the ancient records with wide eyes. Her people gathered around her, watching too. Some of them cried. Some of them laughed. All of them understood. We will come with you, the woman said. Now they were 2,050. On the third day, Ji-woo made a mistake. They had stopped to rest in an abandoned mining tunnel. Ji-woo found an old machine buried in the rubble. He could not help himself. His fingers touched the controls, searching for the power source, trying to understand how it worked. The machine lit up. A light blinked. A signal went out. Sunho saw it first. He grabbed Ji-woo and pulled him back. But it was too late. The signal had been sent. Somewhere above them, Vorath sensors had detected it. You stupid boy, Sunho growled. What did you do? Ji-woo's face went white. I did not know. I did not mean to. Myre ran to them. Her pale eyes were wide with fear. They are coming. Many of them. Fast. Do-hyun made a decision. We split up. Main group continues toward the ocean tunnels. I need 50 fighters to stay back with me. Sunho stepped forward. I will stay. No, Do-hyun said. You protect the main group. I need you there. Sunho wanted to argue, but he saw the truth in Do-hyun's eyes. This was not a battle. This was a sacrifice. The 50 who stayed would die so the rest could live. 50 hands rose. 50 people volunteered to die. Yuna grabbed Do-hyun's arm. There has to be another way. There is not. Do-hyun pulled away gently. Get them to the refuge. Find a way to use what we learned. Make our deaths mean something. The main group moved forward. The 50 fighters stayed behind. Do-hyun positioned them carefully in the tunnel, using the weapons from the bunker to create a defensive position. They waited. The Vorath came like a wave of metal and death. Drones filled the tunnel, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Behind them came a command unit, a living Vorath in heavy armor, directing the attack. The fight lasted 12 minutes. Do-hyun killed 7 drones before a blade cut his leg. He killed 3 more before he fell. Around him, his people fought and died and fought some more. They screamed in anger and defiance. They made the Vorath pay for every meter of tunnel, but they could not win. They were never meant to win. When it was over, 47 humans were dead. Only Do-hyun and 2 others still breathed, badly wounded and captured. The Vorath commander stood over Do-hyun. Its face was not human. It had 4 eyes and no mouth, just a slit that opened and closed. It spoke through a machine on its chest. Where are the others going? Do-hyun spat blood. Nowhere you will find. The commander raised its weapon. You will tell me. No, Doyen said. I will not. The commander paused. In its four eyes, something flickered. Confusion, perhaps. Or curiosity. You know you will die, it said. Yes. Why do you resist? Your species is broken. Your planet is ours. There is no hope for you. Doyen smiled. Blood covered his teeth. There is always hope. And one day, we will make you understand that. The commander killed him with a single shot, but it remembered his words. And somewhere deep in its alien mind, something small and cold began to grow. Far below. The main group reached the ocean tunnels. They found the massive door that led to the deep refuge. They found the genetic lock that protected it. They found that Murray's hand fit the lock perfectly. The door opened. Beyond it was salvation. Beyond it was the beginning of humanity's revenge. The inheritance, the deep refuge, was a city under the ocean. Murray stood at the entrance, her hand still warm from the genetic lock. Before her stretched a cavern so large she could not see the other side. Lights flickered on, one after another, revealing buildings and streets and machines that had waited in silence for 500,000 years. Impossible. Una whispered beside her, but it was not impossible. It was real. Their ancestors had built this place knowing the war above was lost. They had built it to preserve humanity. They had built it to wait. The survivors walked into the city like ghosts entering a dream. They touched the walls, the vehicles, the strange devices they did not understand. Some people fell to their knees and wept. Some people laughed like children. Sunho just stood still, his big hand shaking, tears running down his scarred face. Young Ji-woo ran from building to building, his eyes bright with wonder. Every machine called to him. Every piece of technology sang to his gifted mind. He found the central power station and understood it within minutes. He found the water recycling systems and activated them within hours. This place can support 50,000 people, he reported. Maybe more. They had 2,000. On the third day, they found the sleeping ones. It was Murray who sensed them first. She felt life below the city, deep in the rock. Thousands of heartbeats, slow and steady, like drums in the distance. They followed her to a massive chamber filled with glass containers. Inside each container was a person, frozen, preserved, waiting. Cryogenic suspension, Una said, reading the ancient displays. They put themselves to sleep. They have been sleeping since the war. 10,000 containers. 10,000 people from the before time. Can we wake them? Sunho asked. Una studied the controls. I think so. But we should be careful. We do not know who they are or how they will react. They started with one container. Inside was a woman in a military uniform, her hair dark, her face stern even in sleep. The display beside her container showed her name and rank. Admiral Kang Hae-jin. Commander, United Earth Defense Force. The awakening process took 6 hours. When Hae-jin finally opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Murray's face looking down at her. Where am I? Hae-jin's voice was rough from 500,000 years of sleep. What year is it? Una stepped forward. You are in the deep refuge. And the year? The year is difficult to explain. Hae-jin sat up slowly. Her body was weak, but her mind was sharp. She looked around the chamber, at the primitive clothing of the people around her, at the dust on the machines, at the strange new world she had awakened to. How long? She asked. 500,000 years, Una said quietly. Hae-jin closed her eyes. For a long moment, she did not speak. When she opened her eyes again, they were wet with tears she refused to let fall. Did we win? No, but we survived. And now we want to fight again. Over the following weeks, more sleepers were awakened. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, pilots. Each one faced the same terrible truth. Everything they had known was gone. Their families, their nations, their entire world had vanished into history. Some could not handle it. They broke down, unable to function. But most adapted. They were military people, trained to face impossible situations. They had gone to sleep, expecting to wake up to war. War they understood. Captain Seo Jawan was one of the pilots. He was young when he went to sleep, only 28 years old. Now he was still 28, but everyone he had ever loved was 500,000 years dead. He found Sunho in the vehicle bay, looking at the fighter ships with confused eyes. "You do not know how to fly them," Jawan said. It was not a question. "No," Sunho admitted. "I have never seen anything like them. I can teach you. I can teach anyone who wants to learn." Sunho turned to look at the young pilot. "Why would you help us? We are strangers to you. Primitives." Jawan smiled sadly. "You are human. That is enough. That has to be enough." Dr. Oh Yoonji was awakened on the 4th week. She was a geneticist, one of the most brilliant scientists of the before time. When she saw Mireille, she stopped and stared. "Impossible," she breathed. "What?" Mireille asked, uncomfortable under the doctor's gaze. "You are a descendant. A direct descendant of Project Dawn." Yoonji took Mireille's hand and examined it. "Your DNA. It has been refined over thousands of generations. You are what we hope to create. A human capable of matching the Vorath." Mireille pulled her hand back. "I do not understand. We knew we might lose the war. So we started a secret program. We modified certain humans, gave them abilities that would grow stronger over time. We hoped that one day their descendants would be able to fight back." Yoonji's eyes filled with tears. "And here you are. After 500,000 years. You are our hope made real." Admiral Haijin called a meeting of all leaders, both awakened and tunnel-born. The council chamber was full of tension. The two groups looked at each other with suspicion and uncertainty. "I know this is strange for everyone," Haijin said. "We come from different worlds, but we share one enemy. The Vorath took everything from us. They have kept humanity in chains for longer than any of us can imagine. I say it is time to break those chains." "How?" asked the one-armed woman who had joined them in the tunnels. "They are too powerful. They control the whole planet. Then we do not fight for the planet. Not yet." Haijin's eyes were hard as stone. "We take the war to them. We attack their homeworld. We use their weakness against them." The room exploded in shocked voices. Attack the Vorath homeworld? It was madness. It was suicide. But Yuna stood up, and slowly the room went quiet. "I have studied the data from the first bunker," she said. "And I have studied the technology here. Admiral Haijin is right. We can build weapons that target the Vorath biology. We can build ships that fly between stars. We can do what our ancestors could not." "We do not have enough people," Sunho argued. "Then we find allies," Haijin replied. "The Vorath have conquered many species. Some of them must want revenge as much as we do." The vote was close. Many were afraid. Many wanted to stay hidden, stay safe, stay alive. But in the end, hope won over fear. Humanity would fight in the vehicle bay. Jaewon began training the first new pilots. In the factories, Yuna began building the first new weapons. In the medical center, Yoonji began unlocking the secrets of Mireille's enhanced genetics. And in her command center, Admiral Haijin began planning the greatest military campaign in human history. The inheritance of the before time had been claimed. Now it was time to use it. The Rising, the first human ship to leave Earth in 500,000 years, was small and fast. It carried only 3 people. Its mission was not to fight. Its mission was to talk. Yunsira sat in the pilot's seat, watching the stars grow closer. She had been a tunnel runner once, carrying messages between colonies through dangerous passages. Now she was an ambassador, carrying a message to the entire galaxy. "Contact in 2 hours," reported her navigator. Sarah nodded and checked her notes again. They were going to meet the Pale Ones, an ancient species that the Vorath had nearly destroyed. According to old records, the Pale Ones had survived by uploading their minds into machines. They existed now as digital ghosts, hiding in the dark spaces between stars. The meeting place was an abandoned station far from any Vorath patrol. When Sarah's ship arrived, she saw nothing at first. Just empty space and dead metal. Then a voice spoke directly into her mind. "We see you, human. We did not expect to see your kind again." "We survived," Sarah said out loud. "We hid, but we survived. And now we want to fight. Fight the Vorath? Your species tried that once. You lost. We lost the first battle. The war is not over." A pause. Then something appeared in front of the ship. It was not quite solid, more like a shape made of light and shadow. The Pale Ones called these shapes Watchers. They were the closest thing the digital species had to physical bodies. "We have watched the Vorath for millions of years," the Watcher said. "We have seen them destroy 100 civilizations. What makes you think you can succeed where all others failed?" Sarah transmitted the data they had gathered. The information about Vorath biology, the weapon designs, the fleet that was being built in the deep refuge. The Watcher was silent for a long time. "Interesting," it finally said. "You have learned much, but you are still few. The Vorath are many. That is why we need all eyes. We know you are not alone. We know there are other species who hate the Vorath as much as we do. Help us bring them together. And if we do this, what do we receive? When we win, we help you rebuild. We find a way to give you physical forms again. You will live as you once lived, not as shadows in machines." Another long pause. Sarah held her breath. "We will consider your offer," the Watcher said. "Return to your planet. We will contact you." It was not a yes, but it was not a no. Back on Earth, the war had already begun. Commander Beek Jinho led the Ghost Fleet, a group of small, fast ships that struck Vorath targets and vanished before the enemy could respond. They attacked mining operations, destroyed patrol stations, and freed humans from labor camps across the planet. Each raid was dangerous. Each raid cost lives. But each raid also brought new recruits, new fighters, new believers in the cause. Jinho was 35 years old, born in the tunnels, trained by the awakened soldiers. He was not the best pilot or the smartest commander, but he had something that could not be taught. He had the ability to make people believe they could win. "Today we hit their main processing center in the eastern region," he told his pilots before one mission. "They have 2,000 humans working there as slaves. We are going to set them free. The defenses are heavy," one pilot warned. "We will lose ships." "Yes," Jinho agreed. "We will lose ships. We might lose friends. But those 2,000 people have lived their entire lives in chains. They deserve one chance to see the sky as free humans. I say we give them that chance." They attacked at dawn. The battle was fierce and bloody. 3 ships went down in the first minutes. But Jinho pushed forward, his weapons tearing through Vorath drones, his voice calm on the radio, even as death exploded around him. When it was over, 2,000 humans walked out of the processing center. Many of them cried when they saw the human ships. They had never believed rescue would come. An old man grabbed Jinho's hand. "Who are you?" he asked. "We are the Ghost Fleet," Jinho replied. "And we are just the beginning." The raids made the Vorath angry. They increased patrols. They sent more forces to Earth. They searched for the hidden base where humans were building their rebellion, but they could not find it. The deep refuge was too well hidden, too well protected. And every day, it grew stronger. Myra led the Special Operations Team. Her enhanced abilities had grown stronger with training. She could now sense Vorath from kilometers away. She could predict their movements, find their weak points, strike before they knew she was there. On one mission, she led a team to capture a Vorath commander alive. It was the first time humans had taken a living Vorath prisoner. The commander was different from the others they had encountered. It was older, more decorated. And it talked. "You cannot win," it told Myra during interrogation. "The Dominion has existed for millions of years. We have crushed every species that rose against us. Then why do you look afraid?" Myra asked. The commander's 4 eyes blinked. "I am not afraid. You are. I can feel it. Something is wrong in your Dominion. Something you do not want us to know." Slowly, over many hours, the truth came out. The Vorath Dominion was not as unified as it appeared. Different factions competed for power. Some believed in endless expansion. Others wanted to consolidate what they had. The war against new enemies was stretching their resources thin. "Your Overmind is losing control," Myra said. "The Overmind never loses control. The Overmind is eternal. Everything ends. Even empires." The information was valuable. It showed that the Vorath could be divided, weakened, turned against each other. Hyjin added it to her battle plans. Then the Pale Ones made contact again. "We have spoken with others," the Watcher told Sarah. 3 species have agreed to join your alliance. 2 more are considering. But we must warn you. The Vorath know something is happening. They are gathering a fleet. A large fleet. They are coming to Earth. "How long?" Sarah asked. 6 months. "Maybe less. 6 months to finish building the fleet. 6 months to complete the weapons. 6 months before the Vorath came to destroy them once and for all." Admiral Hygiene called an emergency meeting. "We cannot defend Earth against what is coming," she said. "Our fleet is not ready. Our weapons are not finished. If we stay here and fight, we will lose. Then what do we do?" Sunho demanded. "We leave. We load everyone onto the ships we have. We let the Vorath take Earth. They will think they have won. And while they are celebrating, we attack their homeworld." The room went silent. Leave Earth? Abandon their planet to the enemy? "It is the only way," Hyjin continued. "We cannot beat them in a defensive war. We must strike at their heart. We must take the fight to them." Young Ji-woo raised his hand. "I have finished the weapon. The one that targets their biology. It is ready." Yuna nodded. "And I have finished the delivery system. We can deploy it from orbit around their home star." "Then we have everything we need," Hyjin said. "Everything except courage. Everything except faith that this plan will work." Myra stood up. "I have faith. I have seen the fear in their eyes. They know we are coming. They are afraid. And they should be." The vote was unanimous. In 6 months, humanity would leave Earth. They would fly across the galaxy with their allies. They would attack the Vorath homeworld. They would win or they would die trying. There was no third option. The reckoning, the human fleet left Earth on a cold morning. 12,000 people crowded into ships that were never designed to carry so many. They watched through small windows as their planet grew smaller and smaller behind them. Some cried. Some prayed. Some just stared in silence. Yuna stood on the bridge of the command ship beside Admiral Hyjin. Behind Earth, they could see the Vorath fleet arriving. Hundreds of ships, coming to destroy a target that was no longer there. "They will be confused," Hyjin said. "They expected a battle. They found empty tunnels. It will not confuse them for long. They will come after us. Yes, but by then, we will be far away. And we will have friends. The Allied fleet met them at the edge of the solar system. 3 species had answered the call. The Pale Ones in their digital ships. The Kroth, a warrior race that the Vorath had enslaved for 100,000 years. The Valim, small beings with brilliant minds who had once built wonders across the galaxy. Together, they numbered 50 ships. Against the Vorath Dominion, it was nothing. A drop in the ocean, but it was a start. The journey to Vara space took 3 months. 3 months of training, planning, preparing. 3 months of learning to work with alien allies who did not think like humans, did not fight like humans, did not hope like humans. Captain Ji-Wan trained the fighter pilots. He pushed them hard, knowing that any mistake would mean death. Sun-Ho trained the ground forces, turning tunnel-born survivors into soldiers who could fight in any environment. Mai-Ray worked with Yoonji to understand her abilities fully. She learned that she could do more than sense the Vorath. She could feel the Overmind itself, the massive collective consciousness that controlled the entire Dominion. "It is afraid," she told Hai-Jin. "I can feel it. It knows we are coming. Good. Fear makes enemies stupid." Ji-Woo spent his time with the weapon, checking every system, running every test. The device was not large, just a cylinder of metal and light. But inside it was the death of the Vorath species. A radiation that would disrupt their biology, spread by their own home star, impossible to escape. "It will not kill them instantly," he explained to the council. "It will take months, maybe years. But once it starts, it cannot be stopped." "We are committing genocide," Sarah said quietly. "I want to be clear about that. We are going to kill an entire species." Hai-Jin's face was hard as stone. "They killed billions of us. They enslaved us for 500,000 years. They would have kept us as animals forever. This is not genocide. This is survival." Nobody argued. Nobody could doubt the battle for the Vorath homeworld began at dawn. Their sun was larger than Earth's sun, orange and angry in the black sky. Around it orbited 7 planets. The 4th planet was the heart of the Dominion, a world covered in cities and factories and the machinery of empire. The Allied fleet came out of faster than light, travel already firing. Vorath defense ships scrambled to respond. Hundreds of them rose from the planet's surface, thousands from orbital stations. The space around the system filled with weapons fire and exploding ships. Ji-Wan led the fighter squadrons into the chaos. His voice was calm on the radio, guiding his pilots through impossible maneuvers, striking at weak points, covering the larger ships as they pushed toward the planet. "Stay together," he ordered. "Watch each other. We are not here to die. We are here to win." Ships exploded around him. Friends died with his words in their ears. But he kept flying, kept fighting, kept believing. On the ground, Sun-Ho led the assault on the Overmind's central nexus. It was located deep beneath the planet's surface, a massive structure where the collective consciousness of the Vara species lived, and thought, and controlled. The fighting was brutal. Vorath soldiers threw themselves at the human forces with desperate fury. They knew what was at stake. They knew that if the nexus fell, everything fell. Mai-Ray was at the front of the assault. Her enhanced senses guided them through the maze of tunnels. Her strength carried her through enemies that would have killed any normal human. They reached the nexus chamber after 6 hours of constant battle. Half of their force was dead. Sun-Ho had taken wounds that would kill him within hours. But they had arrived. The Overmind waited for them. It was not what they expected. Not a machine. Not a building. It was a living thing, a massive brain that filled the chamber, connected by millions of wires to every Vorath in the galaxy. And it spoke. "Human, I have watched your species since we first found your world. You were so small. So weak, so brief. We thought you would be easy to break. Myray stepped forward. You were wrong. Yes, we were wrong. You are different, resilient, stubborn. You refuse to accept what is inevitable. Nothing is inevitable. I can offer you a choice. The Overmind's voice was soft, almost gentle. Join with me. Let your mind become part of mine. I will spare your species. I will give them a place in the Dominion. Not as slaves, as partners. Myray felt the offer wash over her. She could feel the Overmind's ancient power, its vast intelligence, its desperate desire to survive. It was not lying. It would really do what it promised. All she had to do was surrender. She looked at Sunho. He was dying, his blood pooling on the floor. But he smiled at her, the same smile he had given when they first met in the tunnels. When she was just a strange girl with strange abilities, and he was a scarred enforcer with nothing left to lose. No, she said. Then you will die. All of you. Maybe. But you will die first. She gave the signal. Sunho, with the last of his strength, activated the charges they had placed around the chamber. At the same moment, high above the planet, Yuna deployed the weapon. The Nexus exploded. The Overmind screamed, a sound that every Vorath in the galaxy heard in their minds. And the orange sun began to pulse with the radiation that would slowly, surely, kill every Vorath who depended on it. Sunho died with his hand on the detonator. Myray held him as he went, telling him that he was a hero, that she loved him, that she would never forget. Then she ran. The battle continued for 3 more days. The Vorath fought hard, but they were losing their coordination. Without the Overmind to guide them, they were just individuals, angry and confused and afraid. When it was finally over, humanity had lost 2/3 of its remaining population. 8,000 people had left Earth. Less than 3,000 survived, but they had won. 1 year later, the survivors returned to Earth. The Vorath who had occupied the planet were dying, their bodies failing as the radiation slowly destroyed them. Some begged for mercy. Some fought to the last breath. Most just quietly stopped functioning. Like machines running out of power. Yun stood on the surface for the first time in her life. She felt the sun on her face, saw the blue sky above her, breathed air that did not come from recycled machines. Beside her stood Jiwoo, now 13 years old, but aged beyond his years by war. What was it like? He asked. The before time? I do not know, Yuna admitted. I was born in the tunnels, like you. I never saw the sky until today. Will we build it again? The cities and the ships and everything? We will build something. Maybe not the same. Maybe something better. Far away, Myray sat alone in a medical room. The radiation from the battle had damaged her body. She would not live as long as she should have. But she had enough time for what mattered. Her hand rested on her stomach. Inside her grew the first child of the new age. The first human conceived in a free galaxy. Admiral Haijin had died 3 months after the battle, her body finally giving out after so many years in cryosleep and so much damage from the war. Before she died, she had named her successors. Jinho would command the fleet. The next ground commander would be chosen by the people. They chose Myray, a simple woman from the tunnels, a descendant of ancient genetic programs, a soldier who had helped kill a god. She accepted the responsibility. She had no choice. There was too much work to do. The Vorath Dominion was collapsing. The allied species were rebuilding, and humanity, small and scarred and stubborn, had earned its place among the stars. 500,000 years of darkness had ended. The human race had struck back, and the galaxy would never be the same.